I had always believed storms were just weather, lightning, rain, thunder rolling endlessly across the sky. But that was before I spent a night at Howick Falls in South Africa, where the locals warned me not to stare too long into the crashing waters. They spoke of Inkanyamba's serpent spirit, vast as the storm clouds themselves, with eyes that could call forth lightning and whines that could tear apart villages. I laughed nervously, brushing it off as folklore meant to scare outsiders. But deep down, a question gnawed at me. What if the storms themselves weren't just nature, but something alive, watching, waiting? That night, as the rain hammered the roof of my guest house, I couldn't sleep. The thunder felt different, not random. Each crash seemed to echo with rhythm, almost like a voice trying to break through. The air grew heavy, the windows rattled, and through the downpour I heard it a low, drawn-out hiss, like a whisper curling around my name. Curiosity, or maybe madness, pushed me outside. The path to the falls was slick, the air electric. Every hair on my body stood on end as I drew closer to the roar of water. And then I saw it, lightning ripped open the sky, and for the briefest moment I swore I saw something move in the mist. Something impossibly long. Something watching me. The days that followed were wrapped in a strange kind of heaviness, as though the air itself was thick, people with secrets I wasn't meant to know. I kept hearing whispers around the village, small warnings, fragments of stories shared in low voices whenever I passed. Some of the elders turned their eyes away, as if looking at me too long might draw bad luck. Others told me half-finished sentences, stay inside when the storm comes. Or if you hear the wind cry your name, it's already too late. None of them explained fully. None of them had to. The tension spoke louder than their words. At night, I began to notice things, small things at first. The wind rattled the shutters more violently than it should have. The frogs by the river, usually loud and endless in their song, would suddenly go silent as though holding their breath. Once, when I walked near the water's edge with a lantern, the surface of the river rippled as though something massive had shifted beneath. I froze, holding my breath, waiting, but the water smoothed itself again like nothing had happened. I convinced myself it was just my imagination, but deep down I knew better. The strangest part was the dreams. Every night they came, vivid and heavy, as though they weren't dreams at all but borrowed memories. I would see the shape of a colossal serpent, its body twisting like a storm cloud through the water, its eyes gleaming with something too old and too intelligent. I could feel the ground tremble beneath it, and always the storm followed. Thunder cracking, rain slamming into the earth, lightning cutting the sky in half. I would wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, certain that the sound of thunder hadn't come from my mind but from somewhere real, outside. Then came the incident with the birds. I was sitting outside, trying to write down the fragments of these strange tales in my notebook, when a flock of birds shot into the sky all at once. They weren't fleeing from a predator. I could see no hawk, no loud crack or fire. They were simply gone, their wings beating frantically against the gray sky as if some invisible terror had burst from the ground. I looked around. The villagers had stopped what they were doing. Even the children grew silent. Everyone stared toward the river. I followed their gaze, and for a moment I swore I saw it to a shadow just beneath the surface, something impossibly large gliding through the current. It was gone before I could blink. That night, the storm returned, not a natural storm. It came with a suddenness that felt cruel, like someone had torn open the sky. Wind screamed through the trees, and the thatch roofs groaned under the pounding rain. I ran to secure my lanterns, and for a heartbeat I thought I heard something beneath the thunder. A long, low sound, like the roar of an animal, but stretched and distorted, vibrating in my chest. It made the hair on my arms stand straight. I didn't tell anyone, but in that moment I knew I wasn't being ignored by the villagers because of superstition. They knew something I didn't, and now I feared I was already too close to it. The next morning I found strange marks near the riverbank. Deep grooves carved into the mud, wider than any boat or cart track and curving as though something massive had dragged itself out of the water. The reeds nearby were crushed, broken clean in half. I crouched down to trace them with my fingers, and the ground was still damp, as though whatever had made those marks had been there only hours ago. I felt a chill race up my spine. This was no longer about stories or warnings. Something was here, something real. And worst of all, every instinct in me whispered the same thing. I knew I was watching. That night, the storm returned with a fury unlike anything I had ever seen. Trees snapped, the ground trembled, and the sky itself seemed alive. Against my better judgment, I followed the trail back to the falls, driven by something I couldn't explain. The air was electric, each breath heavy with the taste of rain and fear. Then I heard it, the roar. Not thunder, not wind. Something deeper, something alive. Through the sheets of rain, a shape rose above the falls. A serpent, enormous and ancient, scales glinting like wet stone under the lightning. Its head alone was larger than a man, with eyes glowing faintly, reflecting the storm it commanded. Inkanyamba. My heart pounded. I should have run, but my legs locked. The creature turned, and for a moment I swore its gaze met mine. The storm paused, silent, as though the world held its breath. Then, with a crack of thunder that shook the earth, it vanished into the clouds, leaving only chaos in its wake. I stumbled back to the village, drenched and shaking. The old man was waiting for me. He didn't speak. He only nodded, as though my silence confirmed everything. That night I lay awake, realizing the truth. Inkanyamba wasn't a myth. It was real, and it was watching. I couldn't sleep after that night. The storm had passed, but my mind was trapped in the chaos it left behind. The image of that colossal serpent burned into my memory, the way it rose from the waterfall like a god uncoiling from the abyss. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw its scales shimmering under the lightning, its gaze pinning me in place like a predator testing its prey. I tried to convince myself it had been a trick of the storm, a hallucination born from exhaustion and fear. But the land itself seemed to disagree. Trees had been uprooted along the riverbank. Cattle lay scattered, dead from some unseen force, their bodies twisted in ways no ordinary storm could explain. The villagers whispered that the Inkanyamba had been angered and the chaos was its warning. Driven by obsession, I sought out every scrap of knowledge I could find. I sat for hours with the old man who had first spoken its name to me. He told me of countless travelers who vanished near the falls, of farmers whose lands were destroyed after mocking the legends, and of entire villages that once disappeared when the creature unleashed its wrath. The Inkanyamba is not a beast, he said in a hushed voice. It is a spirit of rage. A guardian of waters and skies. If you saw it, then it chose to reveal itself. And that means you are bound to it now. His words chilled me more than the storm ever could. Bound to it. What did that mean? Was I cursed or marked? Over the following nights, I dreamt of water. Endless torrents, rivers swallowing fields, floods consuming entire towns. In every dream, the serpent loomed, its eyes burning with the same storm light I had seen at the falls. It didn't attack me, it didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough to drown me in terror. I began to notice small changes in myself. My hearing sharpened whenever rain approached, my skin tingled when the clouds gathered. And whenever thunder rolled across the hills, my heart beat in rhythm with it, as though the storm itself had burrowed into my veins. The villagers avoided me now. Children pointed, elders refused to meet my gaze. I realized they saw it too, that I had been touched by something unnatural. The old man's words echoed louder with each passing day. You are bound to it now. One night, desperate for answers, I returned to the waterfall. The air was calm, the moon bright. Yet beneath that serenity, I felt a pull, an invisible weight guiding me toward the roaring waters. I stood at the edge, staring into the mist. And then it happened again. The surface of the water rippled unnaturally, as if something massive stirred below. Slowly, impossibly, the serpent's head broke through the foam, glistening in the pale light. Unlike before, there was no storm, no chaos, just silence. Its eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment I felt something, not hatred, not anger, recognition. I don't remember how long I stood there. Seconds, hours. When I finally blinked, it was gone. The waterfall raged on, indifferent, but I knew the truth. It hadn't left. It was still there, waiting beneath the depths, watching. And now, whenever the rains return, I feel its presence stirring again. So I ask you, do you believe the Inkanyamba is just another legend? Or do you think it's out there still, hidden in the storm, waiting for the next person foolish enough to seek it? Because I've seen it, and I can promise you this, the storm will never sound the same once you know what's inside it. And if you've made it this far into my story, you're already a part of this with me. So tell me, would you dare to stand at the edge of that waterfall? Or would you turn back before the skies open? If you're brave enough to face more of the world's darkest legends, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button, because next time I'll be bringing you another cryptid story that might just keep you awake tonight.